Hello, welcome to another live. My name is Laken, and I go live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. It is Tuesday. I know that. I am going live a day early this week because I'm going to be out of town starting tomorrow. And so I won't be around next Wednesday either. And I didn't want to miss 2 weeks in a row. So here we are live together on Tuesday. There is always a topic of the week that I chat about, and then I save as much time as possible to answer any questions that you have about goals, planning, and life. It's my favorite. It's definitely one of my favorite hours of the week. So let's kick it off with our first question that we always ask, which is, what is one small win that you have to share from the last week? Y'all know, if you've been here, small wins are still wins. Small progress is still progress. And if you are new here, hi, welcome. We celebrate our wins because I know that you're probably not celebrating enough, especially those little small things. For example, mine is that I squeezed in a quick 15-minute workout this morning. I originally had woken up and was like, I don't have time today. I have so much to get done between work. We have the live and we have our community call tonight. And I have to pack for 2 people for almost 2 weeks. Like, there's just not time. And then I was sitting there watching my daughter play on the floor. And I was like, you know what? She seems okay right now. Like, she's playing, she's good. And I can always stop if I need to stop. I'm going to squeeze it in. I'm just going to squeeze it in. I picked a Flash 15 from Peloton, which if you have ever done one of those, they are killer. I only got through probably like 11 and a half minutes. And then she started to get a little bit like, pay attention to me. But it was something, and something is better than nothing. So if you are here live, please say hello in the chat and let us know what your win is. And if you are a part of the replay fam, please, please, please share down in the comments what your win is. There's not much coffee left in this. I'm kind of sad. I attended Sunday's session live. It was such a great session. If you are a member of the Goals with Laken community and you have not set aside time to refresh your goals and watch Sunday's video, to watch the quarterly refresh, definitely make sure that you do that. Finally received our Oracle card reader certification. River J, that's amazing. Reset half of my goals for Q3. Big life changes for you over there. My small win is a big one. I became a grandma. Monique, congratulations to your family. Also, I feel like I have something in my teeth. I feel like I always have something in my teeth. That is amazing. Mom and dad and baby are doing great. Congrats to your whole family. Linda, sticking with my AM routine for more than 10 days, working on the PM routine. It's like you read my mind. That is something we're going to talk about today. I love, love, love hearing about your wins. Keep them coming, even if you haven't shared yet or you're joining late. But we are going to move on because we do have a lot to talk about today. And today is one of those topics where my outline is very minimal, but I anticipate myself going on all kinds of rants and tangents as I start to talk about this topic. So let's quickly start with the July calendar. So it is the last live of June. And so I'm trying to get into this habit of sharing the July calendar with you, or the next month's calendar, the last live of the prior month. So here is the snapshot of July. I finally added a color code to the calendar. I had somebody ask me once that was like, I just found you and I'm very confused by your calendar. And like, that's fair. The colors for me were really more of a visual thing, but really it also makes sense. So red means that it is a video going up live on, not live, a video going up that day on my YouTube channel. Pink, hot pink means that we're live here on YouTube, and blue is within the Goals with Laken community. So next week I will be out of town, so there will be no live next week, but there will be a goals video up in its place. If you watched my goal check-in videos from last quarter, I struggled a little bit with like the flow, and I don't know why this has never felt this way before, but it didn't make sense the way I grouped things together. So I did it differently this quarter. So Monday's video will be a reflection on June and Q2. Then Wednesday's video will be my Q3 personal and business and July action steps. So I can't wait to hear what y'all think about that new flow. And then after that, the rest of the month is the same. We will have a live every Wednesday, a new video every Monday, and then the coaching calls will be on various days, depending on my schedule, your schedule, etc. So that is the July calendar. Let's talk about books. I made zero progress on my books. this last week. It's been a lot. I've had a lot of things going on, both work and personal things and some other things, and packing and preparing for this trip. I have read nothing in the last 7 days. I guess it's been 6 days since Wednesday. And that's okay. Like it is what it is. Progress is never, ever, ever going to be linear. It does not mean that I'm quitting reading for the rest of the year. In fact, I'm excited to take my books with me on our trip and hopefully make some progress there. It just means I didn't make any progress in the last 6 days. Just a quick recap to refresh your brain on what I am reading. I'm reading The Gap and the Gain, which is a nonfiction. It's kind of like a business, personal development kind of book. I'm listening to Michelle Obama's autobiography called Becoming, which I talked last week about how the reason I was behind on this one or hadn't made any progress is because I was listening to a nerdy podcast about House of the Dragon, which I saw somebody ask. I answered it in the comments, but it's called The House of R. It's from The Ringer. So if you're also a nerd and you don't need to go back and listen to all of season 1, but you want to listen to the season 2 ones. I learned so much that I didn't know, but like not spoilery, like helpful things. But I'm all caught up on those. So hopefully I'll get back to this audiobook. And then I haven't picked up my fiction book, which is the second book in A Court of Thorns and Roses. So that's my reading check-in, or lack thereof. Let's talk about my goals in general. So here's my goal check-in for the month so far. Nothing about the monthly or the one-time section has changed. Those, I didn't do any additional things, and I probably won't get into any additional things. The weekly stuff has been basically the same, making progress, not perfect, not everything, but still progress. And daily is kind of the same. Obviously, you can see, I guess maybe I did read once last week. Now that I'm looking at that, there's a check mark on Thursday. So I didn't look at the percentage of this one because I didn't feel like I read it all in the last 6 days, but I guess it turns out I did at least once. I probably read it's probably 1% more because I probably read one chapter, and the chapters only move you just a little bit in that book. So it is what it is. Obviously, in the video that goes live next week, I will go into a lot more detail about all of these goals and what my thoughts are behind all of them. But what I want to say is that I am not taking this with me or thinking about goals starting tomorrow. In my life, June ends tonight. Today's the last day I'm checking off my goals, and then I'm putting this with the pile of goal sheets from the first half of the year. I'm going on vacation. I get asked a lot if I do goals on vacation, and the answer is sometimes. It depends on the vacation. It depends on where we are. It depends on what else is going on. It depends on the goals. I still am going to try to work out while I'm down there just to move my body a little bit, whether it's a walk, although y'all, I would love for it to be a walk today. So we're going to Texas, and we're going to multiple cities in Texas, but our first stop is Dallas. So I was looking at the weather this morning, and at 7 a.m., it already felt like 90 degrees. When am I supposed to take my peanut out for a walk? It's so hot. So it might not be a walk, but I'm still probably going to work out, but I'm not tracking anything or worrying about my goals. So June for me ends tonight. And then truthfully, for me, July is going to start on July 9th. We get back the 8th. I'm not taking my goals with me. I actually already crossed off that whole first week of July, and that's it. I'm not gonna worry. It's not about worrying. That's not what I want my time to be focused on. I either want to be present with my family, reading a book, resting, whatnot. I am still working the next couple of days when we're in Dallas, but I'm not like when my daughter's asleep taking naps, but I'm not worrying about my other goals. So, okay. That was a lot. I'm going to come back and check the comments before we move on. Organize your office. I love that wins. For your one adventure, is it only for Chicago, or can your travel this week count towards it? It totally could, Jennifer. I probably won't check it off because that was not my intention. And I talk about this more in the goals video going up next week. To say that I didn't go on an adventure this month is very silly. Like, did we go to new restaurants? Did we go to fun things? Like, yes, we absolutely did. I didn't do any of the things on my list, so that's why I didn't check it off. But like, I still felt like I explored this This month, I wouldn't check off going to Dallas or going, our travels, because truthfully, like it was for Chicago. The quarterly goal was explore Chicago, but I probably could have given myself the check mark for other things that we did this month, even if they weren't originally on my list. But again, I'll go into that in more detail in next week's goals videos. Having lots of friends and family in Texas. Everyone is hitting the malls to get out of the house and get a good walk in. That's a great suggestion, Linda. I appreciate that. I'm not going to have a car for the first couple days, so we're going to be a little stranded later. That's a great, great idea and a great suggestion. I think as somebody who's lived in cities for 10 and 11 and a half years, I like forget that malls exist. Like, what's a mall? Does that still exist? Alrighty, let's chat. So I thought, since we are about halfway through the year, we're about 6 months in, I would share 5 goals that I have really, really, really had to embrace progress, not perfection. I know that this is something that I talk about a lot. I remind you it's important, blah, blah, blah. And I want to talk and give you examples of how I am actually doing that. So I have 5 goals from the first half of the year and I'm going to go through them and talk about for that in particular goal, what it has meant to embrace progress, not perfection. Now, if you are here and you're like, wait, you said perfection was the topic. I thought that meant that you were going to give me perfection tips. I have a video on that. I did a video on perfection. I'll link it for you if you're interested in like actual tips on perfection. But I think that sometimes hearing examples and specifics from somebody and their goals can be more beneficial than like, here are tips, like generic tips on perfection. So number 1, which is funny because this is what Linda shared for her win, is my morning and my evening routines. So I've always been a routine person. I like routines. I think it adds a lot to my life. I think it adds a lot to my goals. I like the consistency and the structure of them. If routines aren't for you, awesome. I feel like I get comments every time I talk about routines, like, why do you live your life so structured? To each their own. If you would like to have routines, great. If you don't, also great. For me, they provide that anchor. They provide that foundation. The morning one provides the foundation to kick off my day, the things I want to prioritize before my day starts. The evening ones provide the closure, and the prep for the next day is really what it is more about. Now, my morning routine has always been great. I feel like I started working on that I feel like it was 2020 was like the year I really got serious about my morning routine. And over the years, it has ebbed and flowed and looked a variety of different ways, from being in the office to working from home to working from home and continuing to work from home and then going back to the office and then working for myself and then having a baby, etc. And so if you were around, my Q1 goal was to focus on my morning routine and really get back into that. And while I have been consistent in my eyes, in my definition of consistency, which it doesn't have to mean every day, by the way, I feel good about my morning routine. But does that mean that it has been perfect every single day? Not even close. In the last 6 months, I would probably guess I've done it 50% of the days. Yeah, of all the days. I don't care about doing it on the weekends, truthfully. So I've probably done closer to like 70 to 80% of the weekdays. But it has looked different almost every single day because my life has changed a lot since January. January 1st, I had a 4-month-old who I could put her in one place and she wouldn't move from that one place. She may roll or flip over a couple of times, but she wasn't really going to move from that place. She was taking 3 to 4, God, I can't even remember how many naps a day, right at that age. It was just a very different vibe. Now I have a almost 10-month-old who does not stay in the place that you put her down, who takes 2 naps a day. And it looks very different. So my morning routine has had to adjust because of that, which means that there were days that it was very imperfect. And it was something that I had to keep reminding myself again and again. Why do you want this to be a part of your day? What is the value of this? And a big piece of it for me is embracing my morning energy. I am a morning person. I have so much more energy in the morning. And by prioritizing things that are important to me in the morning, I am way more likely to actually do them. And so I had to keep reminding myself as it was imperfect. So focus on that in Q1. Q2, I focused on my evening routine or my PM routine. And if you've been around, I've never been an evening person. I am very exhausted by the time we get towards the end of the day, and that has not changed. But the steps I do as part of my evening routine, some of them don't have a choice but to be done at the end of the day. And some of them are just there to set me up for success the next day. And that has had to be something that I realize, again, is a priority, but it doesn't have to be exactly the same every single day. And to somebody else, that would be the definition of perfect, right? For me, it was like more days than not. As long as it's above 50%, I'm clicking the button. I use an app called Routinery. I've talked about that. I've done videos on both of these as well. I think the last evening routine video I did was maybe January, sometime in Q1. It may have actually even been Vlogmas. It's the last time I did an evening routine, and it has changed. And I could do an updated one if that's something that y'all are interested in. My morning routine I did a couple of months ago, and that has also changed. My routine changes all the time. And videos of these because I'm like, I'm going to record this and next week I'm going to switch something up about it, but that's how my routines are. However, this is probably one of the most common topics or requests I get all the time is to talk about routines and to talk about my routines and blah, blah, blah. So in July, the lives here on Wednesdays are going to be all about routines. So if we go back to the calendar, there are 4 live chats in July. All of them are going to be about routines. It's going to be a series, and we're going to talk all about routines, creating them, implementing them, and then following through on them when life gets tough. So make sure that these are in your calendar to either join us live or watch the replay. I'm excited to chat about routines with you in July. Okay. Number 2, and goals that I have had to embrace progress and not perfection, which, by the way, when we're talking about like perfection, your definition of perfection and my definition of perfection are probably different. What I'm talking about is like what I would have struggled with in the past as my definition of progress. So number 2 is extra work projects. What I mean by that is work stuff that is above and beyond. Sorry, y'all. I was using my camera or my phone to get some B-roll for a reel, and it's blowing up. My family is being very chatty right now, and I need to like take it down so I can't get distracted by it. My business here on the internet has a lot of recurring components, right? I post a YouTube video every Monday. I go live every Wednesday. I have a community that has a weekly coaching call. It also has Facebook posts and texts that go up every day. Those pieces of my business, the regular recurring stuff, I got that figured out, right? I have figured out how to do those things with having a daughter and like all of what all that entails. There's other stuff I want to do with my business. There's other things I want to do, whether it's create new products, update websites. Like there's just so many other things. Update the planner, launch the planner. Like there's so many other components. Breaking these down and working on them and following through on them has been tough for me since having a baby. And let's be honest, y'all, this was tough for me before having a baby. Truthfully, this was tough for me as soon as I started working for myself, and trying to manage that was tough. And it still is. It still is. I'm trying something different in Q3 that will hopefully fix that. And I will talk more about that in my Q3 goals video, but it's still tough. And so what I've had to accept is that something is better than nothing. Doing some of the project is better than doing none of the project. Doing 2 hours of work is better than 0 hours of work. It's not even about the work being perfect for me here. It's about the completion and the time I said I was going to work on it. I haven't even come close to what I thought I was going to do in the first 6 months of the year. But I've done stuff. I have done some things, right? I launched new merch. I can't think of anything else that I've done. I mean, I guess I've updated the planner quarterly. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's all I've done besides my regular, like, recurring stuff. But regardless, it hasn't been perfect, but it's better than nothing. And the other reminder that I have to give myself all the time with all of these goals and all these examples, but this one in particular, is not even failure, but every lack of perfection, lack of completeness is a learning opportunity. Every time that I don't do what I say I'm going to do, or something takes me more time than I think it's going to, I'm learning. I'm learning about how to make it better and how to implement and how to try. And it might take me years to figure out. And that's okay. That's okay. I will keep learning and I will keep trying and I will keep growing until it either clicks or I have to change it again. Right? When I think about like life, and I don't say this to like encourage, like, do not live for like the next phase, because I have been there where I'm like, when this happens, when I meet somebody, when we get engaged, when we get married, when we move to Chicago, when we have a baby, right? It's all this like when. No. I don't mean it that way. I just mean to think about the fact that life is always going to be changing. And so I have to accept that even if it does click and I figure it out, it might change again when something else changes, another big life change. So I just have to focus on figuring out what works right now with the information I have right now, which is more than I had last quarter, and focus on that progress. All right, number 3, which ironically, I put my win in before I mentioned this before, but I do the outlines for these lives a month in advance. So I did all of these the last week of May. And then when I'm prepping for the lives, I put in my win. I put in my one step at the end, and then I go in and add the outline that I'd already created. And look at this. Number 3 was moving my body. This has absolutely not been perfect. And again, whose definition of perfect? I don't know. I don't know whose definition of perfect. Is it the American Heart Association or whoever like suggests that you should do like 30 minutes of strength training and 30 minutes of cardio and 6,000 steps or whatever all the recommendations are. I don't know. That could be the definition of perfect. The definition of perfect could be what I used to do. The definition of perfect could be what I want to do. Either way, I haven't done any of those things, but it's been more than 0. And that's progress. That is where I have embraced progress over perfection. And the hardest, this particular goal reminds me that one of the hardest parts of embracing progress over perfection is that feeling that it's not making an impact. That feeling that 10 minutes of a strength class is not actually making me stronger. That is false. Laken and all of the rest of us. That is false. That 10-minute strength class is making me stronger. It's absolutely making me stronger. I lifted those weights. That is making me stronger. So that is when you have to be stronger than your brain, because your brain is going to sit there and tell you that 10 minutes doesn't matter. That 10 minutes isn't going to make you stronger. That 10 minutes is not worth it. So you might as well just do 0. What? No, brain. Nope. That's not how this works. 10 minutes is better than 0. And that 10 minutes is making me stronger. The next one makes me laugh, especially if you watch my goals videos. And that is cleaning routines. I have always struggled with cleaning routines, but at some point I do finally feel like I've got a good system down in New York in our 600 square foot apartment. And then we moved to Chicago. And we moved into this beautiful, large apartment. And I love it. But there's a lot to it. There's 2 more bathrooms. There's 1 more bedroom. The bedrooms are all much bigger than they were before. And Oh, on top of that, there's also another human living here who also makes a mess and wears clothes and uses sheets and dishes and all the things. So figuring out a routine for cleaning this place has been tough. Figuring out a cleaning routine that I can actually stick to in this place has been tough. And the perfection here is like an easy, obvious definition, right? It's like that our apartment would be clean and perfect all the time. Well, first off, that is ridiculously unrealistic regardless of your situation, because you live in your home. And so even if it is perfectly clean, you clean it all from top to bottom, you live in it. And so the next day it is not going to be perfectly clean. And that's just how that works. Unless you have somebody come clean your place every single day, like a hotel, it's always going to be somewhat dirty. But the other piece of that is that all at one time cleaning. Because in New York, I finally realized that like breaking it up into chunks didn't make sense. Our apartment was not that big. If I just really like put my head down and put on a good podcast, I could power through and get our apartment cleaned in a reasonable amount of time and it would be clean. That cannot happen here. That between the size and like our schedules, like I cannot just head down and clean the entire place from top to bottom in one setting. So what that means is I have to accept that our apartment is never going to be perfectly clean all at the same time. It just never is. The only option is that I clean a little bit when I can, and I prioritize what is important in terms of cleaning. A lot of times it's the floors and making sure the floors feel good on your toes. And the kitchen. The kitchen is picked up. And then in general, for me, it's tidying. Like my mom always gives me a hard time because there's a difference between like a clean person and a tidy person. And growing up, by the way, y'all, I was neither. I was that kid with a really messy room. And then there was like some light bulb switch at some point in high school where all of a sudden I just was like a tidy person. My room was always neat and tidy. Was it clean? No. Did I like vacuum and dust? No, none of those things. But it was tidy. Everything was put away. And that is sometimes also how it is here in our house. It is tidy. I have a routine that I tidy the apartment. Every room gets touched most days from a tidying standpoint. Not all at the same time. Like I talked about this in a vlog a very long time ago, but in the mornings, it's like the living room, and maybe it's just the living room in the morning and then the rest of it in the evening. Well, then the office is at some point during the day, and then the kitchen and the bedroom in the evening. Actually, the bedroom is in the morning too, so when I make the bed. Either way, most of the apartment gets touched during the day, and I tidy it. It doesn't mean that it's clean. And that is the progress that I've had to accept. And I'm okay with that right now in this season of life. And maybe someday we will be able to budget a cleaning service. And even then it won't be perfect, but it will be better. Or I will just, I don't know. But this is one of those goals that I've had to be like, what are the priorities? What's important to me? And follow through on that. All right. Last, but certainly not least, these were in no particular order, by the way. Is also work goal, and that is my email newsletter. If you are on my email list, which if you're not, you can sign up. And I'm about to tell you how often I send emails and what they look like. This has been a struggle for a long time. Part of the problem here, okay, it's not a problem, but part of my struggle is I don't read other people's email newsletters. I don't like them in my inbox. I don't want them. And so I used to run my business from the state of I was my ideal person. And sometimes that's still true. But not everybody is me. And just because I don't like email newsletters doesn't mean other people don't like email newsletters. And when I say newsletter, like I don't, that's the phrasing that like the marketing people use. It's an email. It's a consistent email. That's really what it is. A regular email to your email list. Okay. So for a long time, I wouldn't do it. And I just like resisted it in general. Then I finally was like, okay, I'm going to do it monthly. That's how often I'm going to do my email newsletter. It's going to be every single month. And I was okay at that. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. Like some days were better than others, or some months were better than others. And then this year I was like, all right, I'm getting to this. I'm going to prioritize this and I'm going to do it weekly. I should have counted before this live. I would say, we're 26 weeks in. I probably sent 20. And the goal is for them to go out on Mondays. Some of them have gone out on Tuesdays. Maybe one went out on a Wednesday. But overall, I've probably sent 20 over the first half of the year. Not perfection, right? Perfection is that I would have sent 26 and they all went out at the same time every Monday for the last 26 weeks. But you know what? 20 at approximately the same time on the same day, pretty good. That is one of those things that I have had to say, okay, I didn't send last week's or I sent last week's late. That doesn't mean I can't send next week's on time, right? It doesn't have to be perfect to be helpful. So if you are interested in joining, I do try to send them on Mondays. And it usually is a component that's usually 3 pieces. Number 1 is the whatever's on my mind for that week, whatever that week's thoughts are. Number 2 is the video for that week, a little bit more information behind it, and then just telling you what the video is for that week. And then the third piece is what the live topic is for that upcoming Wednesday, because in theory, the emails come on Mondays and the live isn't until Wednesday, but the topic for the live will be in your inbox on Mondays. So if you're interested, if you're not already on my email list, the link is in the description box. But that is number 5. All right. As expected, I rambled on this. I'm going to check the comments really quick. I tidy the kitchen at night and shine my sink. I do not do the sink shining. I know that's part of, what's the cleaning person who suggests that every night? Because the dishes are my husband's chore. And so I don't touch the sink, but I do tidy the kitchen. Just make sure the counters are clear and all those things. Hey guys, I nearly missed it. I love your videos. Thanks for the inspiration. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. All right, y'all. That is all that I have prepared. The rest of these 28 minutes are yours. What do you want to chat about? This is your time to ask questions. It can be about anything that is on your mind. If you have a question about one of your individual goals or struggles, please don't hesitate to ask and think it's too specific for me that nobody else will care. Even if nobody else does cares, I care and I want to answer your question. But I promise you also that somebody else watching this video will benefit from your question and answer. It could be about a topic that you want to chat about. If you don't know how to phrase it into a question, you could just put topic and whatever the topic is, or whatever's on your mind, whatever you want to chat about. It can be about you and your life, me and my life. Whatever. Goals. Fly Lady. That's what it's called. Yes. And this was a system I definitely tried at some point and did not work well for me. Everybody's different. My cleaning routine priority right now is running the dishwasher at night so I can empty them in the morning and have a clean slate when I'm ready to cook dinner. I love that. This used to be a routine for us in New York when our dishwasher was like the size of this AirPod case, and 2 people working from home filled up that whole dishwasher in a day. Now we do not typically fill up our dishwasher in one day, so we don't necessarily run it every night. But again, that is not a decision I have to make because that is not my chore. I'm so excited for the topic of routines next month, especially after so many big life changes. I felt so out of sorts with them and having to establish new ones. Absolutely. And we're going to talk about establishing new ones. We're going to talk about reinvigorating old ones, all the things. We're going to do 4 weeks all about routines. And I'm so excited. It's funny because this idea, I work with a content coach and we were brainstorming ideas for, Q3's topics for the lives. And I think I was holding back from series once I started doing teaching videos live as opposed to pre-recorded. I was like, well, I was kind of shying away from them. And I was like, you know what? No, we could do a series. We can absolutely do a series. And will they all stand on their own? Yes, they will. Will it be beneficial if you watch the prior ones? Yeah, probably. Interesting. I don't know if anyone is interested in that, but do you think the never-ending task list can be written in a way that doesn't feel like it's never ending? Maybe as a game of cards, as pictures only. Those are awesome options if you feel like that would work for you. I think for what works for me in terms of a never ending task list is first off, accepting that it is likely never ending. Like your to-do list will never, ever, ever be done. That is just how I have experienced life. So what I do instead is save that quote unquote never ending task list somewhere that you don't have to look at it all the time, somewhere that you're not visibly seeing how long it is all the time. And the list that's in front of you, and whether that's for a day, for a week, for a month, is what is like within that day, that week, that month, right? Is contained within that time frame. It doesn't mean that there's not other things, but these are the things on my list today, whether it's you only put the things that are priority, or you only put the things that realistically you could get to, or you only put the things that are time sensitive. That's kind of the same thing as priority, but you know what I mean? Like whether you cut that list down or you just like cut it because you literally can't look at 20 things. It's, in my experience, it's better to just trim it for the time period that you're focusing on rather than trying to finagle it in a different way. At least that's what has worked for me. Linda, I've watched your How to Plan My Life many times. I know you've mentioned refilming this video. Is that the plan for Q3? It is in the plan to be filmed in Q3, and then it will go live early Q4. So if you don't know what she's talking about, I did a video about, was it a year and a half ago or 2.5 years ago? It was a year and a half. It was fall of 22. That was how was it? Yeah. Yes. Because I quit my job in fall of 21 and then got married in spring of 22. Okay. I filmed that video in fall of 22. So this video it's called How I Plan My Life. And it literally, like, I walk you through from starting at the big picture for the quarter, planning out my quarterly goals, planning out a month, planning out a week, and then planning out a day, business and personal, planning my time, all of the things. And I do want to refilm it because, okay, thank you. November of 22. I think I filmed it for Q3, like what going into Q3 or Q4 rather of 22. Because definitely some things have changed. Obviously, right? I filmed that video before I had a baby. So that things have definitely changed. But I've put off refilming it for mostly because I was still trying to figure out what worked. And then I kind of had to tell myself, like, you're never going to actually have it all figured out. Going back to what I talked about earlier, like things are always going to have to be tweaked. And that's still the case. Although I do feel like I have a pretty good rhythm. Although we just made a family decision that could totally, I'm going to make that plan and it's totally going to change. Oh, well, anyway, so I wanted to film it in real time, which means I had to film it at the end of a quarter going into a new quarter. And this quarter was not that quarter because I was also packing and planning for a 2-week trip at the same time that I was planning the new quarter. So I didn't want to also try to be filming this video because I know that it's a helpful video and I want to make sure that it's good and quality. I don't want to rush through it. I want to plan it out and take the time and like give it the time it deserves. So a long answer to say, yes, I'm going to record it at the end of September, going into Q4, and then it will go up at some point in October. So thank you for your patience. I just realized that my nails match my coffee cup. They look closer in person than they do on that screen right there. What else is on your mind? What are you struggling with? What questions do you have? Great topic. Lisa Marie, I am struggling with budgeting. I know it's because I am over every month. Living in the Bay Area is expensive. Any suggestions for baby steps to get a handle on this goal? Yes, a couple of thoughts for you. Number one, Go back to the videos about this exact goal. I have done 2 series of videos where I've given you action step ideas for specific goals. And one of those is my suggestions and ideas. And then one of them is examples from you. And both series include finances. So I will relink those, and I would definitely go back and rewatch those with your current struggles and goals in mind. Now that said, let's talk about your specific struggles, because I totally understand living in a place where it's ridiculously expensive and you're like, how on earth am I supposed to save money? So when you say that you're struggling, do you mean that you're struggling to actually do the tracking? Because whenever somebody comes to me with this goal, my number one suggestion, let me get rid of the troll, is to track. And it is hard and frustrating and scary and all like a million emotions. But that's where you have to start. You have to start with knowing where you're at. And so my suggestions when it comes to tracking are 2 things. Number 1 is you don't backtrack. You don't go back and track things in the past. I know a lot of budgeting people will suggest that. And by the way, all my recommendations and suggestions from this topic come from a place of goal mindset and my personal experience with budgeting, and then working with a handful of people one-on-one on this topic. So when somebody says, go back and track all your expenses, gather all your expenses from the last 3 months, some of them say 6 months, that is overwhelming. And that's a lot. And you're like, that's not going to happen. And you just won't do it. And then you just won't do it. So what I suggest always is to start going forward. If you want to focus on budgeting, you start tracking that day. You start tracking and work on that. The other thing I always suggest is to start daily. It might feel backwards because you're like, wait, you want me to just jump right into a daily habit? If you do it daily, it is so much smaller. If you wait until the end of a week, or really the end of a month even, or the other way around, if you wait till the end of a month, it's a lot. Even if you wait till the end of a week, it's a lot of transactions that you have to track. So by doing it every day, it is going to be a smaller number of transactions. And so you're more likely to actually do it. Now, the beauty of doing it every day is that if you miss a day, that's okay. You just play catch up the next day, and then you do 2 days, but you don't ever miss more than a couple of days. And so sorry, I got distracted by a comment. You stay caught up. Okay. So that's step 1, is start tracking. You got to know where you're at to even make any changes with this kind of a goal. You have to know your numbers. And so you start tracking going forward, and you do it daily. If you miss a day, that's okay. Play catch up that one day. So you're only ever doing 2 days at a time, and work on that. Okay. Then you have your numbers, right? Now, the ultimate goal is for your income to be above your expenses, right? That is what we are all working towards in life. So that you have an extra amount at the end that you're going to do something with. So step 1 is, like you said, now I don't know if you say you're over every month, if you're over every month from numbers that you are picking, or if you're saying you're over that your income is less than your expenses. So the other thing about budgeting, which I guess I didn't say, is I think picking numbers before you actually know what you currently spend is really difficult. Like, it's really, really, really difficult. So step 1, you track, you get your numbers. Then you look at your income minus your expenses. If that number is in the red, if that number is negative, then you've got to figure out what you want to do to change that. Option 1, you increase your income some way. You get another job, you get a second job, you increase your income. Option 2, you decrease your expenses. Now that you know your numbers, you can actually decrease your expenses, right? You can actually look at where all the numbers are. You can see, I'm spending X on this. I want to cut that. Notice how I don't say eliminate. That is another thing I think that people really struggle with this goal is that they try to go to the extreme and they're like, I'm going to do a no spend. And I'm going to go from spending this much per month on this category to nothing. I don't know about you. That has never worked for me. Instead, I want you to say, okay, last month I spent this much on this area and I would like to cut it back to this. And that number is based on where you're at, and it is a reasonable decrease. It is not cutting it to zero. It is not picking a number because the internet says you should spend X amount on whatever, especially when you live in somewhere like the Bay Area. This I get worked up about this because I feel like I struggle with this in New York, is people will be like, well, your housing cost should be X% of your income. And I'm like, in what universe are my housing expenses going to be X% of my income in New York? They're just not. So your percentages are based on your life and your preferences. That's the other beautiful thing about budgets, is that it is up to you and what you want to prioritize. I get questions a lot that are like, how do you afford insert thing here? And it's like, well, I planned for it. And I probably don't spend on X, Y, or Z that other people spend on because that's not important to me. But it's important to me to spend it on this. So that's how I prioritize that, right? So that's the next phase, right? Is in expenses, decreasing them if you want, if you need to. If you don't want to, that's fine. You know your numbers, and that's that. And then you have the difference at the bottom. That's when you can set a financial goal. What do you want to do with that difference? Where's that money going? Is it going towards savings for a down payment? Is it going towards saving up for a trip? Is it going towards debt that you're trying to pay off? Is it going towards your kids' 5 to 9 plan? Like, where is that difference going? And it doesn't have to be 100% to any given location, right? You can split it up between those. But knowing what you're working towards with that extra money helps stay within the goals, right? This was something that was really helpful for me when I was working to quit my job, is because I was trying to save to have a nest egg in order to go full time for myself. And so I would be like, hey, I could buy this thing, or that money could go towards my nest egg, my savings, so that I can quit my corporate job. So knowing what you're working that towards is necessary, in my opinion, when it comes to budgeting. So hopefully, Lisa Marie, that was helpful. If you want to chat further, if you have more like specific to you that you don't want to ask questions, you're welcome to reach out always. But hopefully that was helpful. I see a couple comments on budgeting. I have made good progress on my budgeting goal. I thought I would like to track on paper the best, but that wasn't the case because I don't have constant access to budget to track items. So I went to digital to track on my phone, and I've stayed on top of it. I've also started with only paying with a debit card as well, so had less places to track. I love both of these suggestions. I also found that tracking digitally was way more beneficial for me in this goal than it was doing it on paper. I've never been a paper budgeter successfully. And then whatever you need for that kind of stuff. Like, a lot of people do like the cash only because it's helpful for them. That, if that's helpful for you, that's helpful for you. But I think it's just knowing your numbers is like really key. And then setting realistic targets for yourself. That's a good word to use there. I used to do it all, my budgeting on paper. Getting an app like Every Dollar has really helped me. Even though I can easily track all of our bills set on paper, categorizing transactions is so much easier. 100%. Any other questions, thoughts, suggestions on budgeting and finances? This is one of those really tough goals because it always feels so counterintuitive, because you're like, I want to do this, but I want to do this. And it can be, sometimes it can just be emotional to be like, well, screw it, I'm not going to do any of it. And that's going to make it worse. And I've totally been there. So just know that like you will fall off, and whatever that means for you, whether it's not tracking, whether it's overspending, whether it's whatever, like it will happen. And you just have to be like, okay, I'm getting back on it and I'm going to prioritize it, etc. Okay, I want to share this comment before I go back to some of these questions. I just wanted to share that while I was watching and listening to you talking and walking, I was smiling, and suddenly a handsome man with 2 dogs crossed my way, and we just talked for a bit. I love that for you. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, Monica, I'm curious if you decided about the meetup possibly happening. Okay, Here's the thing. I don't know, but I'm leaning towards no. And I think I got bigger than my head with the amount of time that I had, and I want to do it right. Like I want it to be the right vibe, the right date, the right all of the things, and I just don't think there's time for that. For it to be in the summer. So, I appreciate all the interest, and I want to meet and see all of you. And if you're ever in Chicago and you want to reach out, like reach out. I just don't. I realized that I was going to half. I need another word for that. That's not swearing. I wasn't going to give it my all because I didn't have it. I didn't have the capacity to give it my all, and I was picking, a location, and I was picking a date based on like trying to squeeze it in. And I just don't, I don't know that's going to work out. I apologize. That literally came to me over the weekend. I was like, I just think, I don't know. My inner self is like conflict. Sporty Spice just came out with an autobiography, maybe a TBR. Maybe. I wonder if she reads it herself with that beautiful accent. I would love that. For now, I need to continue to chug on this Michelle Obama. And then my plan was to go from Michelle Obama's first book to Barack's book to Michelle's second book in audio format. I mean, I have them all in hard copy right there. That's what the stack is. This 1, 2, 3. Those are the Obama books. But that was my plan for audiobook, but I will add it to my list. Whew, y'all, I feel like I've been talking. I appreciate this, Linda. Totally get not doing it this summer, but many of us are interested. So when you decide, please ask for some help. That's a great idea. Let me get your thoughts on something. If I gave myself, I think I was also trying to cram it into the summer because of the weather. It's beautiful here in the summer. What if we did like December? Is that miserable and cold? Because September is chaos and still too close to planning. October for us is bananas. And then November, I figured it was still like, yeah, the holidays are hard. I know that was my thought too. But like early December. I don't know. Yeah, anytime between Thanksgiving and New Year's. Yeah, I know. Not December. I'm due in January. Well, then I really can't do January, Brittany. Here's why I said December. December is probably the earliest I would feel comfortable planning it. Based on my capacity, that's the earliest I would feel comfortable. So it's either December or something after that, I guess, is where I'm going with that. It's hard. Then I'm also like, there's never going to be a good time. So just do it. And it's like, well, yes. But another TBR option is One Italian Summer narrated by Lauren Graham. I have that on my list, actually. I'm pretty sure it's on my TBR. Maybe next summer, because then it would allow time for planning. 100%. I was just trying to get something on the books sooner than next summer. But if that's what it has to be, that's what it has to be. What about next spring when the weather first starts to get nicer and all of us are dying to get out of the house? Yeah, the spring is still pretty unpredictable here, as you all know. Like it could be cold, but potentially. You were also in a huge season of wedding and babies, so next summer might be better. Yeah, that's why October is chaos. The weddings here are just. I also need, and in terms of next year, I need to look at our wedding list again and look at our availability of stuff, like the number of weddings we have, and then we have some weddings of some close people that I anticipate are going to come with some other events, showers and bachelorette parties and those kinds of things. There's a lot. There's a lot going on over here, y'all. We'll figure it out. All right. Let's wrap it up with my last question for you. What is one thing that you're going to do this week to make progress on your goals? What's the one step you're going to take? Mine is I'm going to take a break. I'm going to rest. I'm going to actually try to unplug a little bit and like actually take some time off to hopefully kind of reboot and reinvigorate myself. So that is how I'm going to help with my goals, is by actually like taking a break and resting. So I want to hear from you. If you're here live, please share in the chat what your one thing is. And if you are part of the replay fam and you're still here, thank you. Let us know down in the comments. What is your one step that you're going to take this week to make progress on your goals? Doesn't have to be big. Rest for a bit and then cleaning the house. Love it. Prepare for all the paperwork for your first appointment, ultrasound, labs, office. No, it's so exciting. That's all so exciting. Going to get a library. Finished book 17. I love that. On vacation next week. So I too am letting things go until July 8th. Yes, team, we are not doing the first week of July and the first week of the quarter. And it's like, I said this in my goals video coming next week. Does it kill me that we have a quarter and a month again, starting on the 1st on a Monday? And I'm like not taking this beautiful first week of momentum? A little bit, but that's okay. Instead, I'm going to get lunch on Monday with my grandfather, and he is going to get to meet his great grandbaby. So that is what I will do Monday the 1st instead of kick off my goals. Wow. Hey, emotions. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen Inside Out 2, highly recommend. Get the business card folder I ordered and planning to plan in it on tiny task cards. Oh, that's fun. That's cool. All right, y'all. Thank you, as always, for hanging out with me and making this one of my favorite hours of my week. I will enjoy my time off next week and then be back and ready to go with you the following week. But there will obviously be lots of videos in its place, and I'm very excited for that as well. If you wouldn't mind giving this video a thumbs up before you head out, I would greatly appreciate that. And if you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every week, focused on helping you achieve your goals. Have a great day.